For more than 10 years, Roger Barr was one of the most recognizable faces on Chasing Classic Cars. He wasn't the host. He wasn't the star on paper. But for countless viewers, he was the reason they kept coming back. Fans didn't just admire his skill. They drove to the shop hoping to meet him in person. Wayne Carini even admitted that some visitors would walk right past him just to shake Roger's hand. Then, almost overnight, Roger disappeared. No goodbye episode. No announcement. No explanation. He was simply gone. Viewers noticed immediately. But where had he gone? And why did nobody seem willing to talk about it? At first, people assumed the simplest answer. Maybe Roger had retired. Others feared something much worse. Rumors spread online that he had passed away. The silence only fueled more speculation. The network stayed quiet. The production company offered nothing. Even Wayne Carini never gave fans a clear explanation. The truth, when it finally emerged, turned out to be far more complicated than anyone expected. It wasn't just about leaving a television show. It involved a workplace injury, financial hardship, legal disputes, and the collapse of a friendship that had lasted almost 60 years. But how could a relationship that strong fall apart so completely? The story didn't begin with an argument. It didn't even begin with television. It started with a rare Belgian-built Minerva automobile. Roger was working on that car at F40 Motorsports when he suffered a serious leg injury. That accident would trigger a chain of events that changed both men's lives forever. Yet to understand why it mattered so much, you first have to understand the history between Roger Barr and Wayne Carini. Long before television cameras arrived, Wayne grew up in Glastonbury, Connecticut, where his father, Bob Carini, owned a body shop. Just down the road, Roger operated his own repair business, specializing in European and foreign cars. The two shops worked together constantly. If Bob's customers needed difficult mechanical work, the cars went to Roger. If Roger needed body repairs, they went back to the Carinis. Trust grew naturally over the years. Young Wayne spent countless hours in Roger's garage, fascinated by the incredible machines parked inside. But what made that garage so unforgettable? Roger's shop was filled with cars most kids only dreamed about. Ferraris. Maseratis. Alfa Romeos. Race cars. Roger never treated Wayne like a child who was in the way. Instead, he welcomed his curiosity. He let him sit behind the wheel. He explained how the cars worked. Those moments helped shape Wayne's lifelong passion for classic automobiles. Roger's own career was remarkable. He served in the United States Air Force as an aviation mechanic while stationed in Germany. Living in Europe only deepened his love for motorsports. His driving skills became so respected that he even served as a backup driver for Porsche's factory sports car team. After returning home, he built an impressive racing career, winning national championships in Formula V and Formula B. By the time he eventually joined Wayne at F40 Motorsports in the early 2000s, Roger was already a respected legend. When Chasing Classic Cars debuted, their friendship wasn't created for television. It had already been growing for nearly 5 decades. And that history made what happened next even harder to believe. In the summer of 2017, Roger suffered the leg injury while working on the Minerva. The injury alone was serious, but the infection that followed made everything worse. It became severe enough to require hospitalization. Roger was already 82 years old, making recovery much more difficult. Most people would have stepped away from work completely. Roger didn't. As soon as he left the hospital, he returned to the shop. He could only manage 4-hour shifts, but he refused to quit. Even while in pain, he kept showing up. Still, his condition continued to decline. So what happened when determination was no longer enough? Doctors eventually concluded that Roger needed both knees replaced. Bilateral knee replacement is demanding for anyone, but especially for someone in his 80s who had already battled a serious infection. During this time, another problem emerged. According to Roger, despite being injured on the job, he did not receive workers' compensation for the time he was unable to work. His son shared updates online describing the growing financial strain. Roger later confirmed that his only income came from his reduced mechanic's wages because he could no longer work full days. Medical bills piled up while his income shrank. It was a difficult position for anyone, let alone a man who had spent his life working with his hands. Then fans discovered something that changed the entire conversation. In 2018, Roger's friend Steve Cripps created a GoFundMe campaign to help pay for Roger's knee surgeries. The goal was $35,000. Donations poured in from viewers around the world, eventually reaching nearly $30,000. Thousands of people who had never met Roger wanted to help. But buried inside that campaign was one detail that shocked almost everyone. Roger revealed he had never received separate payment for appearing on Chasing Classic Cars. For years, despite becoming one of the show's most beloved personalities, he was paid only as a mechanic. Nothing extra for filming. Nothing for helping attract millions of viewers. Nothing for becoming one of the faces fans remembered most. But was that fair? Legally, television contracts can be complicated. Morally, many viewers reached their own conclusions almost immediately. Wayne Carini's business had grown tremendously during the show's success. Reports estimated his net worth at more than $20 million. Meanwhile, Roger, whose personality helped make the show memorable, relied on part-time mechanic wages and public donations to cover medical costs. Whether anyone had a legal responsibility became less important to many fans than what they believed was simply the right thing to do. After surgery, Roger repeatedly tried to return to work at F40 Motorsports. According to him, he made several attempts, only to be turned away without clear explanations. For someone who had spent decades proving his loyalty, every rejection became another painful reminder that something had changed. Then, in early 2020, the answer finally arrived. Not through a phone call. Not during a face-to-face conversation. Instead, Roger received a written notice ending his employment. Some accounts describe it as an email. Others refer to it as a termination letter. Either way, after knowing the Carini family for nearly 60 years, the relationship officially ended in writing. Roger later admitted he initially thought it had to be a joke. But the worst part was still ahead. When Roger tried to retrieve his personal tools, the process became another battle. These weren't shop-owned tools. They were the collection of a lifetime, accumulated through decades of racing, repairing, and restoring automobiles. According to Roger, getting them back required hiring an attorney. For many fans, that single fact spoke louder than anything else. A friendship that began between neighboring repair shops had reached the point where lawyers became necessary. How could things have deteriorated so completely? Wayne Carini remained largely silent. When asked publicly about Roger, he spoke respectfully and acknowledged his contributions. But he never directly addressed many of the questions fans continued asking. Why wasn't Roger paid separately for television? Why wasn't there a personal conversation before ending the relationship? Why was the separation handled the way it was? Those questions remained unanswered, even as Wayne continued expanding his businesses, launching a magazine, producing a podcast, and exploring future television opportunities. Then another piece of the story surfaced. Reports claimed Wayne privately explained that the conflict wasn't only about work. According to those reports, he believed Roger had treated his youngest daughter, Kimberly, as though she didn't exist. Kimberly was diagnosed with autism as a child, and Wayne has devoted enormous effort to supporting autism awareness ever since. If he genuinely believed someone close to him had hurt or ignored his daughter, it would have felt deeply personal. Roger has never publicly confirmed or explained that allegation. Without hearing both sides directly, no one outside the two men can know exactly what happened. But that claim transformed the story from a simple workplace dispute into something far more complicated. Was this really about business, or had personal pain quietly destroyed everything? After losing his position at F40, Roger did what he had always done throughout his life. He kept working. He joined the Paddock Car Restorations in New Britain, Connecticut, a respected restoration shop specializing in classic European cars. There, owner Michael Donnelly welcomed him with admiration and respect. Donnelly described Roger as a walking encyclopedia of automotive knowledge. Roger's own reaction spoke volumes. He said arriving at the paddock felt like he had died and gone to heaven. He even called it the happiest place he had ever worked. For someone with a career stretching from Air Force bases to national racing championships and international television, those words carried enormous weight. The paddock also gave Roger something he had never really enjoyed before. A platform that belonged entirely to him. Through YouTube programs like Roger's Corner and Ask Roger, he spoke directly with viewers, answered their questions, and shared stories from his incredible career without television producers shaping every moment. He also admitted something surprising. Working at the paddock was far less stressful than filming chasing classic cars. That revelation made many fans look back at the show differently. What had seemed like a relaxed and friendly workplace on screen may have been much more demanding behind the scenes. Was the warmth audiences saw always genuine, or were the cameras hiding far more than they revealed? Looking at the full picture, simple answers become impossible. Roger was injured while working. He said he received no workers' compensation for lost time. He underwent major surgery. Fans helped fund his recovery through donations. He revealed he had never earned television appearance fees. He struggled to return to work. His employment ended through a written notice. He hired a lawyer to recover his own tools. Later, he publicly reminded people that despite years on television, he had never become wealthy. He said he had spent his life simply working to keep a roof over his head. Wayne Carini, meanwhile, has consistently spoken of Roger with respect while also pointing to a personal issue involving his daughter that may have changed everything. Whether that allegation fully explains the breakdown remains something only the two men truly understand. The public has pieces of the puzzle, but not the entire picture. In the end, millions of viewers watched what appeared to be a warm friendship built on trust, shared history, and a love of classic cars. Behind the scenes, the reality was clearly more complicated. Roger eventually found peace in a quieter garage surrounded by people who valued his experience. Wayne continued building his businesses and preserving classic automobiles. Their lives moved forward on separate roads, but the questions surrounding their split have never completely disappeared. Maybe that's why Roger's story continues to resonate. It isn't just about television or classic cars. It's about loyalty, pride, aging, friendship, and how even relationships that survive decades can unravel in ways nobody expects. If 60 years of shared history can end with a written notice, legal disputes, and unanswered questions, it makes you wonder what the cameras were really showing us all those years, and what was happening just outside the frame.